Rugby's greatest story of 2022 was by far the massive improvement that the Black Ferns made under Wayne Smith as their head coach. This came after they went from their worst losing streak in history to back-to-back World Cup champions. If you said that the Black Ferns would become World Cup champions 1 year on from mistakes like the ones we're seeing here on screen, you'd have probably been labelled a conspiracy theorist at the time. Against all odds though, this lineout mistake here turned into this lineout heroic here. I've previously uploaded a couple of videos where I discuss the turnaround, but now that we've been given a few months worth of time for the legacy of this final to set in, I now want to examine what the Black Ferns did on the pitch to win the 2022 Rugby World Cup. For those who are watching this on Patreon, you'll get to see how they defeated France, and for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, let's crack into examining the World Cup final. I was at the stadium on the day, and considering how badly England had bullied the Black Ferns in their two previous encounters, it was game on. It was Delilah versus Goliath. Having entered the Black Ferns 22 by the 3rd minute, England looked to get on the scoreboard as soon as possible, while under advantage, Zoe Harrison picks up on an overlap that Emily Scarrett has noticed. We pause on Harrison checking for Scarrett, and as we see this, we notice that Chelsea Bremner hasn't quite spread far away enough from the ruck, which leaves Georgia Ponsonby, a hooker, to fill in the next defensive gap. As Bremner's examination of a turnover possibility saw who move just a second later than normal, Fitzpatrick is still shifting towards Scarrett from side on as the England attack advances. Fitzpatrick's support of Bremner also forces Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe to remain between Scarrett and Ali Kildan until the very last minute, creating both the overlap and the opening try. Just 10 minutes later, England are on the scoreboard again. This time, it's not going to need too much analysis. It's a driving maul, otherwise known as boring rugby according to Wayne Smith. This sees Amy Cocaine score her first try of the match. Lydia Thompson, though, does this. Woodman-Whitcliffe has no bend in her hips. She's standing upright with Thompson's face directly clashing with hers. It's direct contact to the head with force without mitigation, and it's a very clear red card. While I did see a lot of keyboard warriors attempting to say the ref cost the World Cup final after the game, this was Thompson's fault and the ref made the right call. Also, because wingers are the least important players on the pitch, I genuinely doubt this would have made a difference, especially as all three of the tries England scored after this point of the match were scored by forwards. That's a very big statement though, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So let's prove it correctly by heading over to the next event of the match. The Black Ferns fired a brilliant warning shot with their own try off a maul. Considering the Black Ferns line at shambles just 1 year prior, this try to Georgia Ponsonby just seconds after the red card would have been a true twist of the knife to give England a psychological death blow in any other game. Because this was a World Cup final though, England's kept their determination, sending Marley Packer over for the 3rd maul try of the final. Despite being down to 14 players, Ali Kildan actually made this tackle on Aisha Letiyiinga during this try as well though. As for how the try was scored, it originates from this brilliant decoy line by Stacey Walker, who is the outside option for Teresa Fitzpatrick in this arrow formation that has Tui in behind. The formation sucks 4 English players in, as it's very unclear what this formation is being used for. We get a very nice lazy line though from Ruahei Demons to show what it's for as Walker runs into the English, which now allows Demons to have 3 outside options in Tui, Holmes and Letiyiinga, the Black Ferns' fastest players, marked by just 2 English players. As Harrison reads Tui's ability to scorch through and score off this gap over here, Demont instead gets the ball out wide to Holmes, who does not travel forward. Because Holmes does not exit her flat-footed stance until receiving the ball, she holds Kildan's attention by keeping the ability to pass back on the inside to Tui. It goes without saying though that an unmarked Aisha Letiyiinga is a better choice though, so Holmes commits to this and the try is scored. After 2 more tries that have been the result of mauls to Amy Cocaine and Amy Rule, England leads the Black Ferns at half-time. Because the Black Ferns believe in themselves though, the half-time deficit it doesn't faze them. This is especially thanks to my best friend Renee Holmes in the 30th minute that has taught England that the Black Ferns can score from anywhere. Had it not been for England being under advantage, this disallowed try for Holmes would have hurt England very badly. The Black Ferns know that starting the second half in the way that England started the first half is the way to go. This over here that we get straight from the kickoff, this is one of the greatest tries of all time. After just a single ruck, the Black Ferns have Rua Dumont as the first receiver with Alana Bremner, Teresa Fitzpatrick and Renee Holmes in a hands down the line formation, while Wallaroos and Georgia Ponsonby are forwards in the way to block England's sight of the play. Letty Yinger is also available to carry on the wing, but this is of course far out of England's sight. Bremner is in position here to shift forward and carry, while Holmes is out the back to either kick or pass wide, with Fitzpatrick also being able to send this wide pass. What we instead get though, after Dumont's catch, is 3 steps forward from her to a sudden switch of formation that sees Fitzpatrick between Bremner and Ponsonby as an inverted pod, while Roos is in front of Dumont, so of course can't receive the pass. England's draw in with Ponsonby becoming the receiver, because as we can see when Ponsonby catches the ball, this fake pod had a back and behind and inverted shape. Fitzpatrick can now wrap around to Ponsonby's outside and deploy 2 possible strike runners. These runners are Holmes or Waka from deep, while Letty Yinger remains available far out on the wing. As Fitzpatrick receives the pass, Matthews remains fixed to Ponsonby, while Cleal is now in a side-on position, running the risk of a missed tackle on Holmes should Fitzpatrick pass the ball on. Scarrett is in a bafflingly awful defensive position as well. She's looking at Holmes, marking Waka, but unaware of Letty Yinger. Scarrett turns around late while Waka crosses the gain line, opening up this gap here for Letty Yinger. This should all be pretty predictable from here. Scarrett will just need to follow this defensive line and shut the play down by taking the winger into touch, but she doesn't. Waka throws a priceless dummy, gets on the outside and holds Harrison's attention before unleashing Holmes into space. Holmes gets me out of my seat, herself back on the outside, then the ball to Waka. To give her goal kicker a more likely shot to even up the scores, Waka turns in and dots the ball down to make the crowd the loudest they've been all game so far though. What makes the try so special though isn't the rehearsed moves that sent her over the gain line to begin with, nor the incredible improvised finish that looks absolutely amazing. It's the evolution from the Black Ferns in just 1 year that makes this try so special. What you'll notice here from the 5th minute of the Black Ferns' 100th test match played against England in 2021 is that they're trying to break the line open with a similar pattern of Waka on the outside. However, ladies and gents, they've gone about it in a far more one-dimensional way. It's an awful hands down the line play with Letty Yinger in midfield and Takura Ngata Aidangamati still working back to the outside. She's offside right now. As this pattern is easy for England to read, Semple is forced to get to the breakdown, losing her place as the orchestrator and forcing Letty Yinger to begin the phase at the ball. Because everyone in the team is in such a basic position, Letty Yinger has to take the ball in herself. This would be like Ponsonby over here in the final doing the same thing. Although Letty Yinger breaks the line, Elder, a forward, is the only support runner able to collect the offload, while Letty Yinger lacks the awareness to pass during the tackle. The clunky movement means Elder gets the pass late, while Ngata Aidangamati is isolated on the edge without any ruck clearance options and has to travel back inside, allowing England's defence to reset. Now compare this to when Waka breaks the line in the final. As she gets on Scarrett's outside, Roos, Ponsonby and Coxedge are already following the arrows over here to get past the England defence, ready to travel down the pitch and be there for when Waka has crossed the gain line. They continue to run and support her, with Holmes able to send the ball inside to either Ponsonby or Coxedge with a clear-cut ruck clearance option and the 9, both available to either carry or fill their roles at the breakdown. Realising that Kildunn could tackle either of them, Holmes instead decides to use herself as a blocking mechanism, allowing Kildunn to make the tackle and of course allowing Waka to complete the try absolutely unmarked. This try wasn't just beautiful to watch, but it shows the attitude of a team that's willing to die for each other with absolutely golden instincts to keep the ball alive. The Black Ferns further enhanced their lead by fluking a close-range try for Crystal Murray, while Amy Cockayne goes on to get a hat-trick off yet another maul, leaving the Black Ferns behind by just 2 points with 10 minutes to go in the test match. What we'll notice a fair bit before the final try of the game though, is that the Black Ferns have this consistent willingness to pass back on the inside whilst in English territory. After Coxedge finally passes to Ruahei-Demont on the open side though, England get caught out big time. Having defended the blind side for so long, they rush in on Fitzpatrick, who takes the ball as the second receiver of a hands down the line formation. What the Black Ferns have done again though, is used a poor looking formation as bait to open the space for a kick, very similarly to how they did so against France when Ruby Tui scored her try. If Fitzpatrick passes to her outside, England know where the ball is going. There's only one possible direction for this pass, so as the ball is mid-air about to land in her hands, Scarrett and Kabaya rush in for the tackle on Fitzpatrick, with Kildun lurking out wide to catch an intercept that Waka could gift through intending to pass the ball to Holmes. England have, by reading this attack though, left all of this space over here available for a kick that all three of Fitzpatrick's outside players can receive. Waka gets the bounce right, offloads to Letty Ienga, who scores what she doesn't exactly realise to be the winning try as there are still 9 minutes left to play. Though the Black Ferns had the lead with just minutes left after coming from behind, there was one more twist in this tale. Despite England getting 4 lineouts in the final 6 minutes, none of them were able to win the game. How these lineouts were thwarted was even more incredible to see, however. Lark Davies, who was selected as England's reserve hooker, she'd only played 37 minutes of Test rugby during the World Cup thanks to an ankle injury, so when the Black Ferns researched the English lineout, their research was so in-depth that either Wayne Smith or Jonah Ngan-Wu noticed something that no normal person would notice. Their rugby IQ was so high that they noticed such a tiny difference between the English hookers that I just don't have words for it. In the 7th minute during their semi-final against Canada, Amy Cockayne remains very still, throwing the ball as soon as the lineout call has been made, with Marley Packer scoring the opening try off a maul. Whichever one of them noticed this though, they picked up on the fact that Davies would step to the side, count to 3, then throw the lineout ball. Whether this is just a habit that Davies has built over the years or something tactical, this is something I'm unaware of, as I hadn't noticed this pattern up until this test match. In my personal opinion though, the Swee dance that Davies does is almost certainly tactical, because when we look at the only line-out throw that she does while on the pitch, this one goes to Alex Matthews, not to Abby Ward. Whenever Abby Ward is the jumper, Davies indeed does this dance to give the signal, so there is a high chance that this is indeed tactical. Alana Bremner clearly notices this from Davies in the second to last line-out of the match, as her eye line can clearly demonstrate the arrow shows us this line, while she also does so again in the final edition of the English lineout. Davies also happens to take another 2 seconds longer than usual in the final lineout, meaning Abby Ward now becomes a very obvious target for the throw, having already called all of Davies' throws to herself during the match. Ngan-Wu, who knows exactly where the ball is going, gets up in the air, contests, gets the pass to Crystal Murray. Muir then fails to roll away from the breakdown, and it's game over. The Black Ferns become back-to-back World Cup champions, and I hear the loudest crowd I've ever heard at Eden Park. Less than a year after a senior player accused the former coach of bullying the players. Less than a year after their worst ever losing streak. Less than a year after dumping Les Elder and Eloise Blackwell as captains. And most importantly, less than a year after Ruahei-Demont, Kennedy Simon and Wayne Smith took charge of the 10, the Black Ferns took up the mantelpiece as back-to-back World Cup champions to farewell the outgoing halfback Kendra Coxedge, their greatest player of all time. Now that we've gone through this story of absolute sporting heroics, let's all wish the Black Ferns a massive amount of good luck for their upcoming test series in the Pacific Four, and they're going to open that with a test match against the Wallaroos of Australia. I'm really wishing these Black Ferns all the best for their upcoming season, of course. It's just been amazing to see the impact that this test match, this World Cup final has made made on women's rugby, because before I started covering the Black Ferns, the amount of women who made up my follow account on Instagram was about 7%. Now you guys can see that numbers roughly doubles to about 13% of my audience from the last 90 days. This World Cup final was absolutely amazing for rugby in New Zealand, and so many young women I have noticed have been taking up the sport. It's been absolutely excellent to see. If you guys all enjoyed this video, make sure to support me over on Patreon like these awesome people over here. You can also visit me over on Instagram like I mentioned before. Do make a fair bit of Black Ferns content over there. Can't wait for the test match. I'll be covering that with a match analysis, and I will see everybody here for the next video. Cheers for watching from Max.